Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to write our first Playwright script. Let's get started. So what I'll do inside this test folder, I'm going to create a new folder. Okay, so I'll right click new folder and I'll give the folder name as launch browser. Now inside this folder, I'm going to create our first Playwright script. So new file, and so I'm going to give the name as first script. So we have a convention, right? We have to follow that. That is dot spec dot ts. So I'm going to write the same thing, dot spec dot ts. So ts means we are going to specify that it's a TypeScript file. Okay. Now, if you go inside this example test, so first thing you will observe here, that is an import statement. So we are importing something called as test from our Playwright library. So whenever we are importing this test, and if we are using that, that particular block will be considered as one test case. Okay, so it will be considered as one test case. So now in our first script also we are going to do the same thing. So we are going to import test from this Playwright library. Okay, so let me import it, and as of now we are going to use only this test. So I'll not be using this except, so I'll remove it, which is not required as of now. So I'm going to say test, and now if you see here, it is throwing me an error. And what it is accepting is inside this test method we have to pass the title. That particular title, it should be in the form of string. So if you go to example file, so this is the title which they have given, has title, get started link, right? So this is the title. So we are writing our first script, so I'm going to give the title as launch browser script. Okay, so this is our script, launch browser script. Now, so if you observe here, we have passed the title, then it is asking us for the body. Okay, so in this body you can see there are multiple options. So it says test body of your Playwright test arguments, or Playwright test options, and Playwright work arguments, and Playwright worker option. So we have so many things here, right? So now if you see that here properly, so you can see we have the title which we have declared here, and the next thing we can see, that is the body. Okay, so we have to write our test body. So first argument is the title and second argument will be your test body. We have to write it inside a method block. See, in TypeScript or JavaScript, the advantage is we can execute our programs without using class. Okay, so most of the time we are going to deal with methods only. So those methods are declared as function inside your TypeScript. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to declare a function inside this block. Okay, so I've declared a function. Now the first step is that we have to launch the browser. See, whenever we are launching the browser in your Selenium, if we write WebDriver driver is equal to new Chrome driver or whichever browser we want, so it will directly launch a browser, right? But in Playwright, the concept is quite different. So how it is going to work here is, see, first thing is that we are going to launch the browser. Okay, so we are going to launch the browser. Later on, after that, the second step is that we have to open a tab. See, for an example, when you launch the browser, this tab will not be there. Only the browser instance will be created. After that, manually, we have to create this particular tab. You can call this as tab or you can call this as a page also. So whatever you want. But this is how it works. First, you are going to create the browser instance. Then you are going to create a new page or a new tab. So for that, so we have something called as Playwright fixtures. Okay, so we have something called as Playwright fixtures. So what we have to do here is, if you want to launch the browser, so we have to get that browser. Okay, so we have to get that browser context. So what I'll say, inside this method function, I'm going to receive that Playwright fixture, which is browser. Okay, so if you see here, this is a browser fixture which we are getting from the Playwright. So it will help us to launch the browser. Okay, so now what I'll do, using this browser, I'm going to say browser dot new context. Okay, so whenever you are going to say browser dot new context, a browser will be launched. Okay, browser instance will be created. Now, so there is one very important thing that we have to understand, or we have to remember, that is, every function that you are going to use in Playwright are asynchronous functions. Means those can execute simultaneously. So here, without launching the browser, we cannot proceed for the further step, right? So first thing is that this particular line has to complete the execution and we should get the response from this line. Then only we have to move on to the next steps. So for that, what we are going to use here is, we are going to make use of a keyword called await. Okay, so await is the keyword. Whenever you are going to use this await, your TypeScript will understand that I have to wait until this particular line execution is completed, and once after getting the response of this particular line, I have to proceed to the next line. Okay, that is how it works. Now, once after writing this await keyword, I'm getting an error, right? So it says await expressions are only allowed within asynchronous functions. Okay, so it clearly says that I can use this only inside asynchronous functions. But this is a normal function, this is not an asynchronous function. So what we have to do, instead of declaring this as a function, see, I'll show you an example. Here you can see it is an asynchronous function, but our function which we have written, it is a normal function. Instead of using normal function, we have to use asynchronous function. So I'll declare an asynchronous function here. And again, I'm getting some error in this particular line. See, so it says it is expecting us to display some symbol, right? This symbol, we have to use it. Now what I'll do, I'll just make use of that symbol. Okay, so this is how we are going to declare an asynchronous function. Once you are launching a browser instance will be created, and then we have to save that inside a variable. So constant, I'm going to give the variable name here as context. Okay, so browser context is created. Then by using this context, what we have to do is, we have to create a new page. So I'm going to say context dot new page. So new page is created. Again, this is also an asynchronous function. We have to make use of await keyword. Okay, so I'm going to say await new page, and again I'm going to store it in a variable by giving the name as page. Next, now what I'll do, I have to execute this particular script. Okay, what we have to do here is, we have to execute this particular script. So for that, we have to use commands, right? So what I'll do now, I'll navigate to a Playwright official website. So inside documents, under running and debugging test, we will find the command. So now whenever you are running this command, it will trigger all the test cases. But in our case, we have to execute only this first script, right? First script test file. So let us try to find, uh, do we have any command to run particular test? Yeah, we have here run specific test. So for that, you can see that we are using this, right? So we are using npx playwright test. I'll copy the same thing and let's paste it here. After that, so we have to specify the path. See, if it is from a different directory, So if it is under test file only, we can directly give the name. But under test file, again we have given some folders, right? So better we will go with the path. Okay, better we'll go with the path. Now to copy the path, I'll just go to this copy relative path and paste it here. Okay, now let me run this command. So it says, okay, so no test found. Okay, so here the issue is, I think, the backward slash. Instead of using backward slash, we have to use forward slash. Let us try to execute now. Now you can see 3 tests are getting executed. Okay, so launch browser, everything got passed. But we didn't see anything, right? Nothing was getting displayed here. So now by default, your Playwright will execute your test script in the headless mode. Now, we don't want to execute that in the headless mode. We have to see the execution, right? Again, let's search for the command. I think we have some command called headed. Okay, so if we are using this command, we'll be able to see the execution. Now, what I'll do, I'll go back to VS Code, the same previous old command, and I'll add this thing. So let me show you guys properly. So now our command is npx playwright test and then hyphen hyphen headed. Now let's see a browser context is getting created and then it is closing immediately. So if you observe here, it was closing immediately, right? We were not able to see that properly. So I'll give some wait. Okay. So if you want to give wait, you have to use page dot wait for timeout. Okay, wait for timeout. Here I am going to specify 2000 means it will consider as 2 seconds. Save, and then now again I'm going to run the same command. Let's see what happens. See, it is launching, waiting for 2 seconds, and then it will close. This is how you can launch the browser and you can give some wait in your Playwright. And if you observe one more thing, we are writing this lengthy command, yes or no? Every time we have to write this lengthy command. Instead of this, we have one more option. If you remember in the previous video, we have discussed that inside package.json file, we have something called as scripts, where we can use our custom commands. Okay, so here we have to give the path, right? So now what I'll do, I'll copy this entire command, what I was running from the command line, and then I'll create another custom command here. So I'll give the name as first script, and then I'll specify the same thing, we'll paste it here. Whenever you are making a change, make sure that you will save that file. Okay, otherwise the changes will not be applicable. Now what I'll do, instead of writing this entire command, I'm going to write npm run first script. If you make any spelling mistake, it won't work. So make sure you are typing the same thing. See, now again the same 3 test scripts are getting executed in 3 different workers. And if you observe one thing, how many scripts we have written here? We have written only, okay, how many test files we have written here? We have written only one test file, right? But how it is getting executed 3 times? See, running 3 tests, 3 is getting passed, but we have written only one, right? So here, whatever the script you are writing, it is getting executed in all 3 browsers, which is mentioned inside your Playwright config file. So if you observe this, so we have Chromium, Firefox, WebKit. That's why it is getting executed in all these 3. Now I don't want to execute in WebKit and Firefox. I just have to execute in Chrome means you have to comment out this line. So I'll comment this line. Once after making changes, we have to save this, close this particular file, and now it should get executed only once, and I'm going to use the same command. Okay, so this is one option that you can run this particular script saying that npm run your command name, or if you mouse over on this, you will get an option called run script. So directly if you click on this run script, it will execute. And now see, it is getting executed only in one test. See, one test, one is passed, and it was executed in Chrome browser. So this is the basic thing that we have to understand before getting into the other concepts. Hope you guys have understood this concept clearly. In the next video, we are going to discuss more about the browser actions. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.